After working at Novacp for 15 years, I was called into a meeting with Isabella Clark and Heather from HR. Isabella smiled in that fake, polite way and said, "We're optimizing your position." I already knew what that meant. They were letting me go. Heather pushed a folder across the table with my severance papers. "We need fresh perspectives," she said, like I was some old piece of software they were updating. I didn't say much. I just nodded and kept a calm face, even though my stomach was turning. They thought I'd cry or beg. But I had already seen this coming. A month earlier, I found a leaked email between executives planning my exit and how they'd take credit for my work. They had no idea I knew. While they thought I was just a loyal, aging employee, I was already planning my next move. That email made everything clear. They had never filed the patent for the product I created, the one that made Novacp millions. They called it a mistake, but it was obvious what they were doing. They wanted to push me out quietly, claim my invention as their own, and move on like I never existed. I spent weeks preparing. I backed up proof that I created the product. I read my employment contract carefully. Anything I made on my personal time with my own tools wasn't Novacp's property. That one detail changed everything. So when they handed me that folder and expected me to walk away quietly, they had no clue they were stepping right into my trap. I left that meeting and closed the office door behind me, my hands shaking. Not with fear, but with excitement. I sent a short message to my contact. "It's happening." Friday's my last day. The response came instantly. Perfect timing. Contracts are ready. Dinner tonight to finalize. My smile widened. That night, I met my brother Robert and his brother-in-law Jonathan, who also happened to be the CEO of Tech Innovation. We sat in Robert's home office, a quiet place full of family photos and old books. Jonathan slid a leather folder across the table. "You sign this, and on Monday, we announce you as our new Chief Innovation Officer." I opened the contract. 7-figure bonus, stock, royalties, everything Novacp refused to give. This time, it wasn't just about money. It was about being valued, about being seen. I picked up the pen and signed the papers. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. I wasn't just walking away from something. I was walking into something better. Before I left, I asked about my old team. Ryan, Melissa, and the others had worked with me for years. They didn't deserve to be stuck at Novacp after what was about to happen. Jonathan smiled and said, "We've already got jobs ready for all 6 of them. Better pay, better titles." That sealed it for me. I wouldn't just save myself, I'd save my team too. The next day at Novacp, I went through the motions like everything was normal. I answered questions, helped with transitions, and smiled through the whispers in the hallway. I carefully documented everything. My goal wasn't kindness, it was proof. Evidence that I'd acted professionally, while they had not. They would never be able to say I'd left a mess. But inside, I was counting down the hours. Friday finally came. In my exit interview, Heather pushed a non-disclosure agreement toward me and reminded me, "All IP developed during your employment belongs to Novacp." I nodded, keeping my voice calm. "Yes, anything built during work hours, using company resources." She didn't catch the slight emphasis. I signed, packed my things, and took one last look at my office. Isabella showed up at my door, pretending to be casual. "Taking time off?" she asked. I smiled. "Actually, I already have something lined up. Starts Monday." Her face froze. She didn't expect that. "Leadership role," I added, just to twist the knife. I walked out without looking back. They thought I was finished. They had no idea what was coming. Monday morning, I stepped into my new office at Tech Innovation. It was beautiful, floor-to-ceiling windows, quiet, focused energy in the air. Jonathan was waiting. The press release went live at 7 a.m., he said. It made headlines. Tech innovation acquires rights to game-changing product, appoints inventor as CIO. That inventor was me. My name, my title, my work, and Novacp. They were now in trouble. Every company using my tech had to license it, immediately. At 9:15 a.m., I got a text from Ryan. "Nova's in chaos. What did you do?" I laughed and told him to check his email. Offers were waiting for all of them. As Monday went on, Ryan kept sending updates from Novacp. Executives were scrambling. Legal teams were pulling contracts, checking files, and trying to figure out how they'd lost control of their most important product. The stock started falling. Investors were calling. At 10:45 a.m., my brother called. "I've scheduled a meeting with Nova. Noon. I'm still their biggest client." I could almost see Daniel, the CEO, sweating behind his polished desk. The product they counted on wasn't theirs anymore. It was mine. And now it belonged to their biggest competitor. All because they thought they could quietly push me out. By Tuesday, things were worse for them. Clients were canceling orders. Investors were selling stock. Meanwhile, tech innovation's value was rising fast. The phone at my new office didn't stop ringing. Reporters, analysts, industry leaders. Jonathan popped in and asked how I felt. "Validated," I said. Finally. After all those years of being overlooked, I was finally being seen. My team had accepted their offers. They would join me next week. And Nova? They were unraveling. That afternoon, Heather called. Her voice was stiff. "We believe there may be a misunderstanding about the patent." I replied, "There's no misunderstanding. It's mine. And the documentation proves it." Heather tried to stay calm. "Daniel was hoping you'd be open to a conversation." I didn't hesitate. All discussions must go through Tech Innovation's legal team now. I ended the call. They were trying to fix a fire they started, but it was already out of control. By Friday, Novacp's stock had dropped 23%. Industry experts were writing articles calling it a major failure. That same day, Daniel messaged me. He offered me a raise, a new title, and a seat on their leadership team, like I'd forget everything. I didn't respond. The same team he tried to replace was now working with me. Ryan told me everyone at Nova was in full panic mode. Rumors were flying that the company planned to sue me. I sent his message to our legal department. Their response made me smile. Let them try. We had everything recorded, proof of my work, timestamps, development logs, and that I built it all on personal time. Meanwhile, Nova was sinking. Clients were pulling out, their board was angry, and they were desperate for a way to fix it. But it was too late. They didn't just lose a product, they lost the person who made it possible. And they were feeling it hard. That same day, their lawyers contacted Tech Innovation. They wanted to discuss licensing terms. Our team replied with a fair, but tough offer, triple the standard rate and public credit naming me as the inventor. Jonathan shook his head and said, "Daniel will hate this more than anything." I nodded. Then they can rebuild it from scratch if they can. I knew they couldn't. What I built wasn't just code or design. It was experience, trial and error, and understanding. They could copy the parts, but not the thinking behind it. Without me or my team, they were stuck. They just didn't want to admit it yet. The next Monday, I held my first big team meeting at Tech Innovation. Ryan and the rest had joined. Everyone looked more alive than I'd seen in years. We shared ideas, mapped out improvements, and pushed things forward without stress or politics. Melissa leaned over and said, "This feels right. Like real work." I smiled. That's what it means to be valued. Then my assistant knocked gently and stepped in. "Nova just made a big announcement. Daniel's out. Isabella too. Legal head's gone as well. I blinked. I hadn't expected it so fast. But when leaders fail this badly, they get replaced. Fast. The news spread fast. Every tech site and blog was talking about Novacp's shakeup. Then I got an email that surprised me. It was from Olivia Carter, the new board chair at Nova. Her message was simple and respectful. She congratulated me on my new role and said they wanted to discuss a fair licensing deal. She wrote, "We're prepared to publicly recognize your contributions and fix past mistakes." I forwarded it to Jonathan. He replied instantly, "Phase 1. Complete." I leaned back in my chair, smiling. The company that pushed me out now wanted to negotiate on my terms. 3 months later, I was standing on a stage at the Women in Technology Leadership Summit. Just a year before, I had attended the same event as part of Nova's team, sitting quietly while Daniel took the credit for work I had done. Now the crowd was cheering as I walked up to give the keynote speech. I spoke about innovation, ownership, and how companies must treat inventors with respect, no matter their age or gender. I didn't mention Nova by name. I didn't have to. Everyone in the room knew exactly what had happened, and they knew who had won. After my talk, several young women came up to me. One of them, barely 30, said with tears in her eyes, "Your story changed how I see my work. I've started keeping records of everything I build on my own time." I smiled and said, "That's smart. Protect your ideas. They matter." That night, more good news came in. Novacp had finally signed the licensing deal. They officially named me as the sole inventor. Their stock had stopped falling, but it never fully recovered. Tech innovation, on the other hand, had grown stronger than ever, and I wasn't just part of it. I was leading it. Jonathan came by my office with 2 glasses and a bottle of champagne. "Congratulations," he said. "Tech innovation just passed Novacp in market value." We raised our glasses. Sunlight streamed through the windows. My name was now tied to the technology I had created. Not just behind the scenes, out front, where it belonged. This wasn't about revenge. It was about respect. About showing what happens when you trust experience, when you protect your ideas, and when you stand your ground. I thought back to that Friday when I walked out of Novacp with a box in my hands. I walked out quietly, but I didn't leave empty.